Hello lovelies, my name is Eric and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I want to talk about the dangers of witchcraft, that dangerous stuff. But I'm maybe taking this on a different route than you might have expected. The three main things that I want to focus on today are crystals, oils, and herbs. So, bit of a story for you. Recently I was asked to bring a fluorite to a ritual. And I don't normally work with crystals as a rule, just because there's so many issues about the ethical mining of crystals and I don't know where they've come from or how they've been obtained and things like that. So I tend to avoid crystals for that reason. And I sort of can see things like crystal grids and stuff happening, and I don't really know where those ideas have come from or, what they really are. I'm not sure that I get it 100%. So, I know there's stuff going on there that I'm not really familiar with. But generally speaking, I don't work with crystals. But I was asked to bring one to a ritual, and since it was somebody else's ritual, I'm happy just to play along and do what I'm asked to do. So I brought along a fluorite, and I asked one of the people there who sort of has an expertise in crystals, I'm like, is this safe to put water on? Because some crystals, like selenite, are water soluble. They break down in water. I feel like everybody at this point has heard the story about that woman who put the selenite in her fish tank to cleanse the water and, killed all her fish. I shouldn't laugh, that's not really funny, is it? That's sort of what I'm getting at, though, with, the dangers of crystals and how this stuff happens. But she told me that I can spritz it with water, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to spritz it with some holy water. But if I was to place this in a bottle of water and leave it for some time, it would create a really potent poison, which I had no idea about. Naturally, because I don't really work with crystals, I have no expertise there, but she did. So I thought that was really interesting, and it got me thinking, there's so many the water bottles with the crystals in them, and stuff like that, and people think they can just put crystals in water, and that is perfectly safe. And I think a part of that is because these are quite often sold to us, herbs, oils, crystals are sold to us as a safer alternative to medicine. And I really just don't think that's the case. We're dealing with substances and minerals and stuff that you maybe don't have a full understanding on. And you're using them in place of medicine, prescribed medicine. And that's, really dangerous. So I think a lot of it, does come down to common sense. And that was sort of, in a previous video I did about Anaheim Nun, one of the comments that I got was, people should know not to treat a broken leg with a healing spell. They should know that they need to go to a doctor for that. Because that's common sense. And I think, at the end of the day, the onus is really on the individual to have that common sense. And to make sure that any substances that they're using are well researched and that they're familiar with. I don't, in my Etsy store, I do sell herbal blends and stuff, but they're all things that I've heavily researched and made sure that, they're not going to kill me or anyone else. I have as a general rule not to have anything in the house that would be harmful to me or my cat, because I don't want either of us, by accident, getting really sick, or worse. So there is a real focus on that for me, and the dangers of these substances and things like that, because you have people out there, they've got the dehumidifiers in their home, and if they have certain oils in there, that can cling to the fur of their pets, and when the pets clean themselves, they're consuming that oil, and that can be toxic to them. Or even when we're using herbal blends, and there are things like the flying ointments and stuff that are becoming, more and more popular all the time. And people are just lathering these things on their body with no real understanding of the substances that they're using. So there's a lot of dangers that are involved in those kinds of practices. And I think that's another big reason of why I don't tend to use crystals and to some extent oils in my practice. The only way I really use essential oils is in the Florida water that I make, and that itself is a relatively new thing for me. But again, I did a lot of research into those particular oils to make sure that they were safe enough to keep in the house and to have in this concoction for me and for my cat as well. I try to be really supportive of other people and other people's paths and ideas. I myself have a lot of, sort of wacky ideas, even in occult circles. But I'm really not about breaking down other people. I'd rather collaborate and, bring those people up and raise them up as well. A big thing that I've been seeing in my newsfeed lately is light language. And to me, it looks like the same thing that the ecstatic Christians are doing when they're speaking in tongues because of the Holy Spirit or whatever. It feels like it looks the same to me. And so it's easy to draw that parallel there and say whatever is happening either, in the mind or spiritually seems to be the same sort of phenomena happening in both spaces. And we could even bring up historical examples of the Oracle of Delphi. There are some scholars who think that she would speak in tongues and that her priests would interpret her messages. There are other scholars who think though that she just spoke the prophecies or the oracles in understandable ancient Greek, I guess. So there's some debate there, but there is that historical precedent for speaking in tongues and speaking ecstatic language and stuff like that. So to me, light language, that's fine. And I'm happy to support that and encourage people to view it as legitimate. It's not my cup of tea. It's not something that I'm interested in doing, but it's easy for me to understand what's going on there. What is the mechanics that are happening there? And it seems to be the same thing as these other spaces where people speak in tongues. And I feel when we have that language and can draw those parallels, for me, I quite often like to draw the parallel between the in the Digimon pop culture practice that I do, drawing the parallel between Digimon partners and familiar spirits, because to me they're essentially the same thing, and so that relationship is easy for me to draw a parallel with, and I think as long as we have that language, it's easy to justify most practices and most things. There's nothing new under the sun. This is all stuff that's been happening for a very long time and will probably happen for a very long time still. So, yeah, but to sort of get to my point here, we can't be experts in everything, and that's totally okay, but do make sure that you're doing the research into the substances and the elements that you're working with in your practice, because a lot of them can be very dangerous, and you do need to be very careful about what you're keeping on your skin, or even what you're consuming, all that sort of stuff. Don't be putting just random crystals in your water without checking that it's safe to do so. But also, this sort of brings up the beauty and the importance to me of circles or covens or just communities in general, is that we can't be experts of everything, but having a group of experts in their own fields is so helpful, because without that friend of mine from the circle who I could ask, is this crystal safe? I would have never known how dangerous it could have been. And, it's the same working backwards. This same person, they wanted a wand, and so as that sort of is my area of expertise, I crafted them a wand. So that's the beauty of having community. That's the beauty of having meat space connections with other people, is that you get to glimpse into their practice, into their expertise, and share your own with people and really make a difference in your community and really do something with your magic on that sort of community scale. So I think that's all that I really wanted to talk about. This is more a PSA, I guess, than anything, and just a reminder to be safe in what you're doing and to bolster others up. From the outside, the muggles think we're all the same, so let's bolster each other up, let's support each other. Kara, on her channel recently, or maybe not so recently, but she was talking about light workers, and I saw a post in my newsfeed recently that was bashing down light workers and saying how witches are better because they dabble in the dark. And it made me so sad. The muggles think we're all the same. Let's raise each other up. Let's be a community and a collaborative effort. But that's all that I really wanted to say. So I hope that this video has been informative, or at the very least entertaining, and I hope that you're all well. So until I speak to you next time, mwah, bye.